Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wolfe Pit with another episode of What Are We Eating? A while back, I tried haggis in a can. And you ask why anyone would want to try the Scottish delicacy out of a can. Because if you live in America, it's the only way you're going to get to try haggis without going to Scotland. Because haggis contains lamb lobes, which are part of the lamb lungs, and fresh lamb lungs are illegal in the United States. So now I know what you, the people, are thinking. If lamb lungs are illegal, how can you have the haggis in the can if it contains lamb lobes? Well, canned haggis can be imported because it's cooked and tinned and therefore doesn't require USDA inspection due to the fact that they're not fresh or fresh than frozen meat. I read all of that information off the internet, so it's gotta be true. So now you're probably wondering, what is haggis? Haggis is the savory pudding containing sheep's pluck, which if you didn't know what sheep's pluck is, it's a sheep's heart, liver, and lungs, which is then minced with onion, oatmeal, suet, spices, and salt, and then mixed all together with stock, and traditionally it's cooked inside the animal's stomach, but nowadays it's mostly in artificial casings. When I originally opened up the can of haggis, I didn't really know what to think, other than it looked like dog food. But it ended up being absolutely delicious, with a wee dram of whiskey poured into the haggis, and me. But I'm stuck trying foreign foods in cans. Like for today's video, I'm trying Swedish Pölsa in a can. Now if you're wondering what pölsa is, it's a traditional northern Swedish dish, which is very similar in taste and texture as Scottish haggis, which was the whole point of me going over the haggis in the beginning. There's not a whole bunch of crap ingredients in the pölsa, but there are some interesting ingredients, like crop. Is that a word or an acronym? I tried to find out what it meant, and I can't find out anything on it. So I'm gonna guess it's a type of grain like corn or wheat. Then you have nutshell, which sounds strange, but if it's ground into a flour, I guess it would be okay. Then you have rind, but I'm not really sure what that is either. But I do know what beef and pork is, but then there's nut heart, which I'm going to assume is the meat of the nut. Finally, there's beef liver, which I love, and then seasonings. If you know what some of these ingredients are that I don't know what they are, please let me know in the comments. The whole can contains 525 grams. Per 100 grams, there's 130 calories, 8 grams of total fat, 3 grams of saturated fat, 10 grams of carbohydrates, no sugars, 5 grams of protein, and 1 gram of sodium chloride, also known as salt, which equates to 1,000 milligrams of sodium. Now let's take a quick look at the can before we pop it open and heat it up. And just like with the haggis, when I first opened it up, my initial thought was dog food. But remember, I ended up loving the haggis, so this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It looks fatty and gelatinous, which to me looks good. Now it was fatty and gelatinous on top, but as soon as we started scooping it out of the can, it looked a little bit dry like haggis. We cooked the pölsa over medium-high heat, stirring about every minute or so. After a few minutes, it started smelling great. But it didn't smell like meat or organs cooking, more like cookies or oatmeal, which oatmeal it strongly resembles. After about 7 minutes, the pölsa was thoroughly heated through and ready to serve. It says you should serve the pölsa with boiled or fried potatoes, pickled beets, or with a fried egg. We had all three, so we're going to serve it with all three. So let's get the egg into the skillet with melted butter. Yes, it's a lot of butter, but don't judge me for my love of butter and how much I use when frying an egg. You'd be shocked at the amount of butter I use when making scrambled eggs or omelets. If you love butter as much as I do and think butter makes everything better, crush that like button. So when making sunny side up eggs, I like to cover the skillet for a minute or so to set the top of the egg. That way, your egg's not runny. Once the egg was ready, it was time to get the pölsa, potatoes, beets, and fried egg plated up. And that's actually a nice looking plate of food. So let's see if it tastes as good as it looks. we tried the Pölsa first on its own. Once it was on the fork, it kind of looked like sausage or ground beef. So into the old pie hole it went. And the flavor was much milder than I expected. I expected a somewhat organy iron flavor, but it was much better and milder than I anticipated. It kind of reminded me of scrapple or liver pudding. I liked it. The texture was a cross between oatmeal and barley. Next, we took a couple bites with the fried egg. The combination of the rich and creamy yolk paired perfectly with the Pölsa and somehow added a bit of sweetness to it. The second bite looked even better than the first, and it tasted just as good. Courtney and I were loving the Pölsa. Now it's time to try some Pölsa with the beets and potatoes. They recommended pickled beets, but these are just regular beets, and the potatoes are homegrown, fresh from the farm, new potatoes, straight out of the can. I really do love these canned new potatoes. Season them with seasonal, put them in a pan and roast them with chicken, and they're fabulous. Here's a bite with the Pölsa, fried egg, and a piece of potato. The potato didn't add much flavor, but it added some substance and texture. A little salt and pepper would have gone a long way and given it that little pop it needed, but either way, it was still very good. Next, I tried the Pölsa with egg and beet, and I never thought I would be eating eggs and beets at the same time, but I was happy I did. The creamy rich egg combined with the earthiness of the beet melded nicely with the Pölsa. Courtney and I were really enjoying the Pölsa and took a few more bites. Finally, it was time to try a bite with the egg, potato, and beet, and that ended up being very delicious, just like all the other bites we took. This is my first time ever having Pölsa. It sounds strange, and you may even think some of the ingredients are strange, and just like with the haggis, I really enjoyed it. I would eat this again in a heartbeat, and I would also recommend you, the people, to try new foods from other countries whenever you get the opportunity. It's fun and sometimes very delicious, tasting what other cultures eat. So with all of that said, I'm going to give the canned Pölsa an 8 out of 10. If you'd like to help support the Wolfe Pit, consider being a patron. You can pledge as little as $1 a month. That's only $12 for the whole year. Or you can pledge more. That's up to you. Either way, every little bit's appreciated and helps me produce more high quality videos more often for you, the people. Thank you all very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.